Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brett Augustine, a recovery business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Centers, a leading provider for assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, which allows us to offer services at no cost. Business Plan Basics, presented today by Rebecca Schultz. We've been looking forward to this one because we get asked that a lot. And for those of you who don't know about Rebecca, let me just tell you that Rebecca's been helping small business owners access money and financial education for over 25 years. She's also the founder and executive loan consultant for Centerlock Funding. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Miss Rebecca Schultz.
Aw, thank you. That always makes me feel so good. Like that's a good intro.
Right?
But just a little side note, I do love having these conversations because for my whole career I've been on the other side of the table, listening and learning, and it really starts with understanding the plan. And so as we approach today's concept and topic, just know that I'm a user and I'm a business owner, right? So I see both sides of it. So hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit of insight on how this plan is more than just a formal presentation. It's actually something that you can integrate, really use strategically in different ways, right? There's different reasons why you have a plan. And so we're going to explore those together. All right, so hang on one moment. I am going to try to share my screen. Here we go. Let's get cooking. All right, let me start the presentation, and team, just let me know if I get the right version or the wrong version. Do I need to switch
Wrong
displays?
version, but it was a nice try.
Good try. Okay, now we're good. We're good.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the business plan basics, right? There's a lot going on in pretty much every business is out there. Or if you are taking this course or viewing this webinar because you are getting ready to start business, awesome, we caught you early. Okay, but we're going to talk all about what is this business plan? How do you organize the conversation, right? And how do you really get this done with the best possible results? That's the conversation today. So my name is Rebecca Schultz. I have over 25 years of lender experience, right? But I am also a business owner. And I have been in this conversation on all sides, right? Investor, from the startup business through the maturing business, through the exit business. So as far as coming up with a plan, right? I like to say, I know what you mean. I got this topic covered. And if you know anything about my presentations, I always like to start with something either funny, like a meme, or something meaningful. And today we're on the meaningful trend. All right. And so I think most of us who's been in the business world, we have heard of or have known or viewed the work of Yogi Berra, right? And he says, without a plan, even the most brilliant business can get lost. You need to have goals, create milestones, and have a strategy in place to set you up for success. That is so very, very true. And even for existing business owners that have been rocking and rolling for years, I'm going to encourage them to take a step back, right, and go through the planning process because there's so much that you can really focus on and restage for success in your business when you actually evaluate the plan. All right, so whether you're an existing business owner or you are a new business owner, this is the same conversation. It's applicable. All right, so when we kind of divide up the conversation today, I like to say there are some basics that we're going to be going over, and trust me, we'll go through this information step by step. We're going to talk about creating this business plan in a two-part process. All right, and you're saying, what are those parts? Well, step one is doing the research and the feasibility on your business. Now, when I say that, that sounds so dry and stagnant, right? You're like, oh, research. It makes you feel like you're back in school and you're having to prepare for some horrible project you care nothing about, all right? Well, separate the anxiety, right? We're talking about hopefully something that you're very passionate about in your business. And the research comes in many different levels, all right? Research can be talking to other business owners in the same industry, talking to business owners in a similar industry, but just outside, right? It could be Google research, it could be going to your SBDC net. If you don't know about it, right, talk to your business advisor at the SBDC. They will let you in on all kinds of amazing secrets, right? But you're really trying to find information to give you the best possible sense of what's happening in that industry or what will be happening in the industry and the industries around that industry so that you can understand what to anticipate and how to really steer your ship, right? I think of the business as being a ship on the open sea. And this plan is how you're navigating or charting the course to get successfully to where you're trying to go. Right? So again, research step one. You need a lot more research. In fact, you'll spend approximately 75% of your time on that research. So it's not nearly as much time on the actual writing as it is understanding what's behind the plan, right? And what I call assumptions, guesses about what the future is going to hold, and then how you're going to lead the business again, get to where you're wanting to go. All right. So the second step in writing a business plan is the actual writing of the plan. It's putting those guesses or assumptions, that research, and a compelling case in a physical writing so that you can share or communicate that plan with intended parties. All right, so who are those intended parties? Right? Good conversation, right? Why do you need to communicate this? Who are you kind of communicating this to? Number one, if you are trying to get investment, if you're trying to get money or support from outside investors to make this plan happen, you're going to want to communicate this business plan to those individuals, right? And what do they want? They want a detailed plan that makes sense, right? How much do you need in investment? You got to make an ask, right? You don't know how many times I've read a business plan and there is zero ask. It's a great plan. I don't know why they're coming to me with it. Okay. So remember, if you're going for investors, you need to make an ask and you need to make sure it's really clear as to what is the benefit to the investor for investing in you, right? It's got to make sense. Why do they want to invest in you? All right. Second reason why you may need this business plan is because obviously you've got other people within the organization. Most of the time it is, right? Whether those are employees, suppliers, vendors, right? Even other team members that could be shareholders or equity investors, right? You need to communicate to those within your team on what needs to happen, what your goals are, how you're going to achieve those goals, and most importantly, how their energy or effort, their skill sets are going to be used or leveraged to achieve the goals, right? Okay, so we've got an idea right now before we even go to the third one. We know that we may need money or investors, right? So this plan is going to be used to help them understand how to invest and what the benefits are. All right. Second, we need to craft and cultivate the energy within the business, right, for those to muster up their unique skill sets and talents to support getting to the goal, right? That's important, right? And finally, if you don't know where you're going or what you're trying to do, it's really hard to get other people to buy in, right? And so that's going to be your client and customer conversation. Now, you may say, Rebecca, I am never going to share my business plan with my clients or my customers. And many of you, I would agree, right? Probably not what they want to see. They just want that, burrito, or maybe they want that service, they want their hair done. Whatever it is you're offering in the world, they don't necessarily want to see your business plan. But I will say that they should feel it, okay? When they walk into those doors or they connect with your business, it should be so easy to understand the goal and what you're trying to accomplish that it should be living and breathing, and the client customer should be able to understand what the products or services that are being offered, what your mission is, right? The desired results of coming to you, and ultimately what your big picture is all about. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm going to mention this probably multiple times, right? This plays out on different fronts. Let's say your online marketing or even your website, right? You may not think about that, but surely your client or customer should be able to understand what your mission or what you're trying to accomplish just by looking at material that you're providing to the outside world, trying to attract them in, right? I know. And if you say, well, I have a great website, Rebecca, and I have great marketing skills, that's fantastic, right? But really, you have to understand it from the client perspective. And it's best to do that when you have a clear plan on what you're trying to accomplish, right? You can clearly see whether or not it's translating to the other side. That's a lot. All right. So business plans incorporate quite a bit of this information. And it all starts from, again, remember step one, step two. Step one, research and feasibility. Step two, the written plan that communicates to all these parties. All right, we're on a roll. Okay. All right. So when you're thinking about a business plan, what is the finished product, right? What's the end result? Oftentimes we have to understand the end at the time that we're starting or doing the beginning, right? We want to know where we're trying to end up. Well, just to give you some basics on that, your finished business plan is going to be between 12 and 16 pages. Now, if that strikes you odd, you're like, my business plan is 78 pages, Rebecca. Or maybe somebody else is like, mine's 200 pages. All right, hold the horses right there. That might be fantastic, and you might have an amazing amount of research, right? And energy and effort poured into that plan. But I'm going to just assure all those else out there that it does not have to be some gaudily detailed document with hundreds of pages, okay? Some of the best crafted business plans that I have seen and I have funded have been very small, right? 12 to 16 pages or less. Why? Why? Because you should be what we call efficient, effective, and compelling in your plan. All right. Think about being at Thanksgiving with your family, right? Do you want to hear how Uncle Ed has done all these crazy things his whole life? Probably not, right? You're like, Uncle Ed, when I asked you how you're doing, I was really thinking about this morning. All right. Okay. So you really want to make sure that you are efficient, effective, and compelling, and you're getting to the meat of what you're trying to accomplish quickly. And so typically you can do that with fewer pages. Now, if you have a complex plan and maybe there's many, many pieces and you need it to be very, very detailed to understand the full outlay, then great, you could probably justify getting beyond this. All right. Just remember EEC, efficient, effective, and compelling. All right. So your finished product should create interest, right? Spark interest. Get me invited, get me excited. I want to learn, right? Okay. And it should allow for that funding source to really want to see the benefit in investing in the company. Oh my goodness, I have read so many bad business plans. I could cry. We could all cry. You would cry with me if I recited that, right? You really want to know, like, what are they trying to accomplish? Why would it benefit me? Just get to the point quickly, right? And then, of course, your business plan should be so good that and so compelling on what you're trying to accomplish, you should be able to share it with employees so that they understand the company's mission and vision and what they're trying to accomplish. And because and we get to this in a moment, there's financial aspects, right? Goals, milestones that are set. They can understand their part, right? How they hitch their trailer to the business, right? Who's the horse in this scenario, and how they get you or help get to the end result. It should be very clear to them. And of course, management, you don't just create the business plan and throw it on the shelf and don't look back, right? You should review that business plan annually, at least bare minimum, right? To make sure that you're keeping the company on track. Because what we learned through this whole pandemic over the last 2 years is that things change. The environment changes. How we communicate as a society changes. How work evolves, right? And how we keep people, customers engaged it is changing and evolving. If we don't ever relook at what we're trying to accomplish in our mission and take into consideration new information, we're not ever going to stay relevant as a business. And many existing business owners who have been around for years will help you understand, right? Staying relevant and compelling is part of the game, right? That's how you continue to grow and succeed and you don't lose track. All right. So those are some basics. We've set the stage. So now let's start talking about what goes in that business plan. Now, your business plan can be unique to you. All right. Before I start throwing sections and numbers and ideas at you, I want you to just first take it in that every business plan is going to be unique to the business owner, right? And what their mission and vision is. So it's okay to be a little different. All right. It should reflect you. It shouldn't just be so dry and standard that that personal aspect, right? That passion doesn't come through. I want the passion to come through. That's really important. I want you to have that compelling case. So when we go through these sections, how you fold them together, right? It can be slightly different. You can take some creative liberty here. All right, it's okay. But we're going to talk about these sections. I'm going to start expanding on it from a user of business plan, right? Right, one that's created it, used it, funded it. We're going to start expanding on why these aspects are really important, what you're trying to capture, right? What you're trying to achieve in these sections. Is that fair? Okay, let's go. All right, section 1. All right, there you go. You're going to need a title page. That's easy, right? You got this. So some title pages, super fancy, right? Other ones, not so fancy. It's really up to you. This is your liberty to be creative. I see a lot of logos on title pages giving me a taste of what's important and branding for the business. That's a personal choice, right? Just remember, it should give me like a welcoming feeling when I pick that up, give me an idea of what the business is trying to do, what their goals are. Sometimes you can accomplish that with a logo, right? Other times it's, a picture from the industry, or maybe it's the problem that you're trying to solve. Just understand how you're inviting the investor or reader into the plan, right? The title page. Now, in that title page, I should have the contact details for the individual I need to reach. All right, please. All right. Worst thing is giving a fantastic business plan and then the title page tells me maybe who the company is, but I don't know who I'm supposed to contact, how to reach them or how to take it further, right? So make sure you take some ownership on that. All right. That's easy, right? I told you this is not so difficult. We can all do this. Section 2 is going to be the table of contents. Okay, so I like to think this is like the legend to your map, right? Remember, I don't know, um, our newer generation, they don't know map skills like we did when I was younger. Okay, so a legend's like a little box at the bottom of a map that tells you like how to read it, right? Well, your table of contents is gonna be that forward to a book. It's gonna tell me where I go quickly in order to get the answers that I'm looking for. And that's really helpful, especially if you're going for investment or there's outside users, because maybe just initially they're like, I'm concerned about the management team. I'm just throwing something out there, okay? I don't know if they have the ability to execute this plan. Do they have the skill set that's necessary in order to accomplish this? Maybe I want to use my table of contents. I want to quickly figure out what page they start introducing these people, and I want to quickly go there first, right? Make it user friendly. Right, that the order to which you've set up the conversation should be available in the table of contents. All right, so we're already into section 2. Are you feeling pretty good? Oh, we got this, right? We got this. This is all easy. We have this. All right, now section 3, a little bit more busy. Okay, a little more busy here. Section 3, we want a good summary, and we call it an executive summary because, well, I guess executive just makes it all fancy. All right, but this is really going to summarize the entire business plan, what you're trying to accomplish. It should do it in a quick summary, so no more than 2.5 pages. All right. A lot of people they may call the executive summary a pitch page. All right. And so maybe they can capture what they're trying to accomplish and their goals in one page. All right. But remember, no more than 2.5 pages. And it really gives an idea to the investor what the entire business plan is going to be about, what they're trying to accomplish, right? And again, what's the opportunity at play? All right, now we can expand on opportunity because it's going to be different for everybody in this call or in this session. But I'm going to give you an example real quick so we can all get on the same page, right? It may be different for you, but I'm going to give you an example. The opportunity or the ask is going to like invite me in, almost like a lost leader, right? We're going to change the face of America. We're going to take the trash from plastic. Again, this is just an example. Plastic wasted bags, and we're going to transition that into an eco-friendly environment. And we're going to, cost save for the business owners. And we're going to improve the environment. And this is going to be so like future, right? We're going to end up making so much money because we're going to be the first to market. So your opportunity is for an investment of $10,000, right? Small investment. We can change the future of our country and the world, right? And we could potentially make X dollars, much more than 10,000, X dollars of revenue. Doesn't that sound good? You're like, woo, you got my attention. How are we going to accomplish all of this? Because I want to be a part of that, right? So your written summary should be completed, right? After you've done your full business plan, because really if you start to write the executive summary, you may not incorporate everything that you need to, and you would figure that out through the business plan. So this is the last thing that you're going to do, but it should be very compelling, should represent the entire plan in that, 2.5, no more than 2.5 pages. All right, can we do that? Certainly. We can do that, right? Easy. All right. 2.5 pages. Easy. We're good. All right. So what's next? Section 4, right? And this is important. We got to talk about the business. All right. We got to talk about the business. So how have you structured that business? You may think that's a boring detail, right? But for investors and for others that are working with you, trying to help you, that's an important detail because it starts to give them the understanding of how they work with you and who they're supposed to be working with, right? It may be more than you. It might be multiple partners, right? Maybe if they're investing to you, how they structure the conversation of support will be altered by the organizational structure. All right. And so I know there's a lot of information online, right? And it's wonderful. The day and age of Google and Wikipedia and, all of these resources are just amazing, right? But this is where I say stick tried and true to the individuals or the organizations that really help give you the broadest sense of information in a structured environment with advisory support. All right. So I say that and you're like, wow, that sounds good. Right. And that's why you've got your SBDC advisors and your SBDC available because again, they're professionals at this conversation and they bring a world of talent and expertise to support you. You're in a great place, right? You'll just continue the discussion with those advisors who will helpfully set you up and give you support around how to possibly structure based on what you're trying to do. All right. So seek outside advice when you're trying to make these decisions, right? Because it's really important. All right. So ultimately, just make sure that you've got an attorney or somebody that understands what they're talking about, right? Who's got the ability to explain to help you determine this. But who the company is, how they've structured themselves, who the shareholders are, right? Big part of describing the company. Now, it doesn't just end there, right? If I were just to tell you that I was a C Corp, you got that awkward silence there. You're like, and, right? Well, you have to hopefully be able to expand on that a little bit more, right? So, just to let you know, like depending on which way you go, on structuring, you can protect the personal assets of the owner in the event of negligence or lawsuit. We never want to think about the bad stuff, but you gotta kind of broach that topic and set yourself up for success. Another aspect for structuring is going to be around reducing your tax liability, right? And so depending on how much money you anticipate making, which is part of understanding your business plan, you want to make sure that you are structured in a manner that supports that, all right? Okay. But again, right, we need to know what the company does. That's part of this section, right? The products and services, if not both, that they're providing, right? And then, of course, who's their target client, right? Who are they trying to support? Is it a B2B or business to business? Is it going to be business to consumers, B2C? Maybe it's private sector, right? Or it's public sector, B2G, B to government. So what is it? Who are you serving? What are you trying to do? Right? You also want to expand on the history of the company. Now, if you're an existing business, this is often easier, right? Because you've got history to talk about. You can say when you were formed and the reason why you formed and how it's been going so far. And then hopefully after you've gotten a little of the basics down, you're like, and this is what we're trying to do, and this is why we need the support. Right? It all goes into the history of the business, almost like a story or a narrative. If you're newer to this game, right, and you're just starting out, well, you need to envision what that story is about the company and what you want to say about the company and what you're trying to do. You start crafting the story or the narrative at the start, right? So, why were you formed? When were you formed? Right? And then, of course, maybe if you don't have a lot of history, then who are those primary shareholders or partners, right? Maybe a little bit of their history on what makes them the right people to really bring this vision or this company around, right? And then, of course, what do you hope to accomplish, right? What is your purpose? You'll blend that into the story, why it was created, what it's going to do. And that's for a startup. For an existing business, going to be about what you've been able to do, what your financial performance has been over the years. And again, you start to lead into what you're trying to do, right? So you do need to think about your overall company profile. So a description, general description of your company, right? What industry are you in? Right? How big are you? Maybe you're, 5 million in gross revenue. That's good to know from an investment standpoint. Maybe you hope to be to 5 million by year 2 or 3, right? All good, right? Gives an idea. Hopefully you spent some time on your mission statement. Oh my goodness, we could have an entire training just on mission statements, okay? How important they are. So mission statement, vision statements, really important. But what are you setting out to accomplish? What's the problem or pain that you're trying to solve, right? Remember, mission statements, vision statements, they should be, again, efficient, effective, and compelling. They should be simple. It shouldn't run on for multiple paragraphs, right? It needs to be something that you can quickly grab somebody's attention and they understand what your goal is. So you should be able to state that in your section 4, right? And then of course discuss about the market share and then the growth plan that you have for that market. Maybe you're going to be a disruptor, right? You're going to come into the industry and you're going to change things up and you're going to offer huge amounts of value and it's going to be a real change, right? Maybe that's what you want to share as far as your growth strategy. Or maybe, right, you're have a different competitive advantage that you understand and you've honed, right? You're going to talk about your market and you're going to talk about how you're creating that strategy or that competition, right? And you're going to be able to take over more market share. But understanding your market share, where you are in the market, how big that market is, that is something that your SBDC advisors do. And in fact, they have the size up tool right there on the website. I'm just going to point that out, right? You are super lucky at your SBDC that you can get behind understanding market shares and size and then really trying to understand how big that market is in your target area and then how you're going to be able to strategize to, grow. And then, of course, sales. Talk about what you have seen in sales if you are an existing business, or what type of sales you intend to see once you're able to start the business. Now, that gets into the financial section. That goes hand in hand. And so I'm just going to introduce the fact that these different sections we're going to talk about, there will be a common thread running through them, right? That's why you have to do the research before you start writing the plan, so you don't get into this and I see it all the time, this cycle where you start trying to execute, you haven't done the research, and then you find out that one of your assumptions, right, or those guesses is wrong, and then you write about the correct version on another section, and there's no constant thread. It's confusing, right? It looks like the person has ADHD and they're just all over the place and they don't know what they're doing. Please don't do that. There's a common thread, right? Your sales growth runs into your financial forecast. You should be able to talk about it, and that should hopefully set up for your discussion about your company. All right, and then obviously there's going to be goals. We also call those milestones. And you should be able to explain either historically where the business has been and where you want to take it. And maybe you have to take bite-sized chunks, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so you can set up specific goals for the different years of operation. Now I'm just going to pause there because that was a lot of detail. I'm going to also assure you that you'll receive a copy or a PDF of these slides so that you'll be able to go back and look at this, right, and digest it on your own, maybe at 2 a.m., whatever you're doing this type of work, right? All right, so we're going to move on, right? That's section 4, understanding the company, how you've organized yourself, who are the players, right? What the history is, what you're trying to accomplish. Make it personal, right? You want to make it personal. Okay, moving on to section 5, right? What are those products and services? Now, when I say that, right, I kind of sit back on those words because it's not as easy as just saying products and services. There's a lot of work that goes into that, right? Like some serious work. There's vendors, there's pricing, there's understanding the market, supply chain. There's a lot that goes into section 5, right? But you just need to be able to hopefully discuss those products and services. And if you're unique, right? If you're offering higher quality, or maybe there's something better about your products or services, you want to make sure that you're intelligently approaching that conversation, being able to explain your advantage, right? So there's a problem, right? That's why your business exists. There's a problem or need, right? And then you're offering a solution, products and services, right? So why should the customer buy from you? What makes you a compelling choice in this conversation? Again, EEC, right? Efficient, effective, and compelling. So think about that conversation and how do you quickly answer it in very strong, condensed language, right? That's how you want to approach the conversation. All right. So once you get through that, right, you've got that down, you got to understand that in most businesses, there's going to be what we call, well, really all businesses, I won't say most, I'll say all, right? There's life cycles. There's also going to be seasonality of products and maybe trends or services, right? So give you an example. I could be approaching this business plan as a business that's been around for 20 years. I might be doing this business plan because now I'm wanting to retire, right? And it's not that I want to just give the business up, but I got to maybe take some of my knowledge and experience and put it down into a physical pattern. And maybe I'm leading my partner or my team, and I'm wanting to invite them to come in, right? Saddle up and start taking more ownership or control, right? That's a different life cycle than somebody that's just starting out, right? And they're looking at solving a new pain in a different way, different product, right? That's a different place in the business cycle. And maybe in this product, now going to seasonality, right? Maybe I'm selling ice cream. Well, it may not be the best time to sell ice cream in January or December, right? There's some seasonal trends here. I probably have a lot more success selling it in June or July, right? So just understand that. And I like to call this naming the elephant in the room, right? Oftentimes people try to make a very compelling case and they leave out the life cycles and the seasonality. Remember, all of this has to connect throughout the rest of the business plan. And your goals for the business plan, right, are going to very much be attached to this life cycle and seasonality conversation, right? As well as maybe your future goals on how you're trying to solve or approach the problem, right? Okay. Then you've got to obviously discuss pricing. Pricing also plays out in the forecasting conversation, right? And then the quality of the relationship, the products and services, and what your real offering is. It should be compelling. Right now, just in this, I feel like this slide says so much. So much of our business plan comes from this, right? Because you have to bring that investor or that employee, right? Or that vendor, right? You got to bring us in to really understand what you're trying to do. And a lot of this comes from just this one slide in this section 5. All right, so once you've gotten through the products and services, right, it's a big chunk, then hopefully you can tell me why you're in demand, why you're doing this, right? And that's through your market analysis. So what's the demand for the company's product? You can't tell me you have this great product and then just leave me hanging, not telling me about the market, right? Like, why is this a good opportunity? Tell me about the demand. Tell me who needs this, right? You should be able to characterize the demand, right? And then hopefully the profitability. You know, there should be a list of buyers for this. Can you give me an idea of what those buyers are? You should hopefully also be able to help me understand the trends within the market. Are they up? Are they down? What's forecasted for the industry? Right? All of that can come from your research. And again, I mentioned this before, but this is where your SBDC advisors excel at what they do. They can help you understand how to get that information, right? That research. They won't do it for you. Let me just explain. Your advisors are like coaches, all right? The coach isn't going to do it for you, right? They're not going to go and play the game. Otherwise, why do they need you, right? They're going to answer questions, watch you perform, help you perform better, lead you to the resources, right? They're not going to, drink the water for you. They're going to lead you to the water, right? And you're essentially going to start being able to craft and understand this. But at the end of the day, and the reason why there's a separation of labor and thought is because you're the one that has to actually execute, right? If you know your market and you know your advantage and your strengths, section 5 and section 6, you're going to be able to execute. You're going to be able to do it, right? Make it happen. That is why you have to do the research because you're the one performing. All right, so section 6 continues. All right. Understand the characteristics of the target market, right? There's demographics, we call it. Maybe there's an age range of your buyer or experience, education level, right? Maybe you have a household income that you're looking at so you can justify the price you've set up for your products or services based by that income level, right? Maybe there's a defined gender that you're trying to sell to, right? I doubt that men with bald heads would be looking for bows in their hair, right? Like there should be some clear guidelines on what makes a good target market. Now we're starting to get into things like marketing plans, sales figures, and I said before that remember there's that thread that goes between all these sections, right? This type of characteristic and target market are going to play into your marketing plan, which should tell you how much you're going to reach or attract these sales for your product, which are going to flow into your financial discussion into how much money you think you're going to make, right? It's like we are layering on the information. Okay, so remember, Every business plan is unique. You're layering on the information in a way that's compelling, which helps you state the earlier facts so that you can expand on it and get into more detail, right? Just remember that. Okay, so section 6 continued, right? You should hopefully have a um, target market and a strategy for how you're going to reach them, right? Understanding those characteristics. All right, so business to business or B2B, right? Maybe there's annual revenues of the clients that you're trying to attract because you know that for that revenue, they'd be looking for your services or you'd be a solution for them. Just an idea, right? All right, maybe for that target market, there's going to be an age of a company, right? So maybe you know that a company that's been operating for 10 years is stronger than a company that's new, and you want to be with a company that's stronger and more stable, right? Just remember, you can start to understand those characteristics based on your target market. Maybe there's specific purchasing patterns, right? Or, right, there's strategic marketing opportunities. You know exactly how to support those businesses and you know exactly how to market to them. All right, I'm going to give you an example because I feel like examples are really helpful when you see how other people utilize this. So I was talking to a business owner the other day, and he had successfully entered a market in Texas for services. There were services. It wasn't a product or good. It was service, and it was really made of made available through some of the government funding that came out of COVID. Out of the blue, a market bloomed, right? So he started taking advantage, and he's doing really well with it. And then all of a sudden, he realized that the same type of advantage, government funding advantage, was coming up in other states. They were a little slower to adapt or make these changes, but he started to see where policies and funding were changing, were making more opportunity available to him, right? It was a strategic decision, but he's able to kind of understand the market, right? Understand the opportunities, and he's able to market to other states that were starting out, right? So again, patterns, opportunities, right? You start to see it, you start to see it again and again in cultivating that target market. Now he's what we call an expert in a certain section of this market, and he has more opportunity, more advantage to take advantage. So it changes for everybody, but that gives you an idea of how to really target other businesses. All right, section 7. We're already to section 7. All right, so you gotta, oh, and I could spend all day on this. You gotta understand your marketing methods, right? How are you going to market? So when you understand your target market, right, B2C, B2B, B2G, you should, because you understand that, be able to start to understand how you're going to really reach them, how you're going to communicate with them, how are you going to tell them what you're doing, right? Maybe you've got individual sales people. They're going to be knocking on these doors, having lunches and coffees, right? Having conversations, using their networks to find these people, right? That's valid option. How about having a really great searchable web page with SEO, search engine optimization happening, right? They're going to find you online. You're going to twiddle that up so you're very attractive, right? That's another one. Maybe you're going to just go grassroots, right? You're going to get business cards and brochures and have meaningful conversations or host dinners, right? And you're going to bring your clients or target market in that way. Maybe you're going to do blogs, Facebook, LinkedIn. Maybe you do all of it. All right. So understanding your market, your demographic is important first, right? And then you got to understand how you're going to communicate. What is best for this? Now, this is going to be part of that sales and marketing conversation. Remember, it evolves into the financial conversation. It is your roadmap on how you're going to make money for the business, and you should have a well-rounded understanding of how much you're going to spend, right, in these different marketing efforts, and then what that's going to translate into leads or closings. I know, I know. That can take some guesswork. That could take talking to others within the industry, right? We talked about research. It could take really good research to understand this. It could take going out to experts that are marketing experts that have had experience in these different sections that would be relevant to you so that you can glean their insight to really have a well-rounded marketing plan, right? But that's essentially what it's going to take. Please don't, save yourself the pain of having a poorly done marketing plan within your business plan, please. Right? I've had so many people tell me in just a couple of lines they're going to do Facebook ads or they're going to do LinkedIn ads and have zero meat that's going to get me to the finish line to see how they're going to actually make this money and how this marketing is going to work for them. Please don't do that. Spend time and really try to understand your acquisition, cost of acquisition, your sales funnel. I'm using all kinds of, marketing lingo, right? But again, that's all support that you can get through your SBDC to be able to drill in. All right, so that's section 7. We'll take a moment there, right? That's a lot of information. A lot of information. All right, so it doesn't end, right? We've got section 8. Section 8 is going to be about your competition. Right now, a lot of people might think, oh, good, finally something easy, right? Like I know my competition. I worked for my competition, right? I'm on my phone with my competition every day. I drive by my competition for coffee all the time, right? Well, when I talk about competition, we got to get in the weeds here, right? We got to know them better than they know themselves, right? You've heard that adage, better than they know themselves. Talk to your competition, direct competition, other companies that offer the same exact service. All right, painful but true. Right? Go ahead and do the work, right? Do your SWOT analysis. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are some opportunities? Right? What are some threats? Maybe they themselves aren't a threat. Maybe they are a future partner, right? Maybe they can support you. Right? But think about your SWOT analysis in detail, right? Outside of direct competition, what is some indirect competition? Right, we're in the world of opportunity right now. The world is changing, right? The economy is changing. There's businesses that are having to reinvent themselves overnight in order to improve profitability. There's a lot of companies that are looking around, and if they have the opportunity to expand their resources, they could become indirect competition to you, right? And so maybe they have a similar service, they just quite aren't doing exactly that. Go ahead and investigate them, right? Do a competitive analysis, do a SWOT analysis on them. What are what are their potential competition for you? Know it, right? And then discuss how you're going to develop recognition, name recognition, brand recognition within your market share, right? Why you, right? How are you going to do that? How are you going to put yourself on the map? All right, competition is actually a tough one. It's not something you just strictly do on Google. I know that's not a popular conversation to bring. Most people just want it to be simple and they just search up other businesses like theirs on the web. Please, go out there and do more of the grassroots, the talk to industry groups, right? Try to understand what you're doing, your competition from a different level. One of the tools, and we talked about this in your SBDC orientation a while back when we did that, but one of the tools out there that's available is what we call Reference USA. That's the old name. It's now Reference Data, I believe, or Data Axle, Data Solutions. The names, I think it goes by all of that. But you could actually drill into census data, and one of the things they put in there is a company's competition. And if you look at your company's competition and go to their competition page, these are just settings under that research tool, you can really dive into some good competitive analysis through that, right? All right, so just letting you know there's other resources out there that you can use that are set up to help you with this, but you do need to do the work. Okay. So once you've evaluated your competition, right? Hopefully, this section is going to help you go back to section, I think we said 3, right, where you're talking about your company, right? And it's hopefully going to help you better understand that competitive advantage, right? And then also too, once you've done your competition profile, you should be able to go back to your target market, right? We just on that, and really understand again what it is you're trying to accomplish and what you're good at, right? And how that's going to shape your products and services. You see how this all runs together? And sometimes you start off with one conversation, and as you evolve through these different sections in research and data, you need to make changes. Welcome to the world of business planning. It's going to ever change. When information changes, it's going to impact other aspects of the business. When you're aware of it and you understand the connection, you can stay relevant, you can stay competitive. Okay? All right, moving on to section 9. It's all about you. That's right. Section 9 is about management. It's about understanding your educational background, right? Your team's background, maybe previous employment where you've done this in a similar capacity with another company, right? And then responsibilities of the management of the company and those team players that are really critical. I'm gonna, take a deep breath because I've seen this done really well and I've seen it done really poorly, right? Um, it's a well-known fact that in the investment world, so if you're going for investment dollars, that one of the key aspects that traditional lenders, that's your banks, credit union, your A A lenders, right? The people that you go to with the best rates, they're going to often look at the people behind the project, behind the business. They call that character. It's one of the 5 C's of credit, right? Character. The management section, that character, like who that person is, what makes them tick, right? What makes them the right person for the job to accomplish the goals, the mission of the company. It's so incredibly important that we really need to spend time here. And I like to say you want to map your previous employment experience to the current role, right? What you're supposed to be doing as closely as possible, just so that you can show that direct relative experience, especially if it's a startup or a young business. All right, so your objective is to discuss your industry experience, right? It's known that they don't necessarily want you to be really good at flipping burgers, but expect you to turn around and be the, Zappos shoe sale person of the future, right? Flipping burgers, shoe sales, different things, right? You want to make sure that you can talk about your direct industry experience, discuss your leadership experience and ability. Oh my goodness. So we have the whole great resignation, right? You've heard that a million times. It's all over the news, right? As business owners, we feel it every day. We live and breathe it. Leadership is often cited as the main difference between businesses that can find talent, can find the labor, and that can't. So what makes your leadership ability strong where you can lead this team into the future and attract the talent that you need in the future? How are you feeding that leader? Okay, that's tough because I'll tell you, businesses change, right? You could go into business and find wild success and need to grow. Are you the right leader to grow that business? Do you have that experience? Do you have that knowledge? That's tough, right? Maybe you don't. That's one of the reasons why businesses don't grow, right? The leader has to grow in their ability. They can't lead if they've never done it before, right? It's really hard. And so, how are you going to continue investing in your leadership skill set, right? To continue meeting the demands of the future? Whew, right? I'm pushing you. I'm pushing you here. So just remember, again, this management section is the most important because out of those 5 C's of lending, right, or 5 C's of credit, character is often the number 1 for investors. Whew. Okay, so we didn't end there, right? We're not done. We're still going along on this roller coaster. We're still peeling back details. All right, so here we are, section 10, Well, we made it to double digits. The financial forecast. Woo! All right, so we understanding our target market, understanding our competitive edge, understanding our products and services and our pricing, right? Well, okay, it leads us all here to the money, right? How much money are you going to make? How do you know you're going to make that much money, right? Is it reasonable for your industry? Right? How much of that market share are you taking? You should be able to answer that under your market, right? I know, right? How wickedly insane that this all connects, right? So understand you've got to discuss those assumptions, those guesses in the future, which are rooted on your research, right? And then you have to help me understand how you're going to make that money. Now, if you're going for a Small Business Administration or SBA loan, which a lot of startups or growing businesses end up seeking because it's the natural product for them when you understand the lending concept, okay? They're going to require a 3-year financial forecast, 3 years, okay? Not 10. It gets really hard going out many years, okay? You feel really uncertain doing that. But 3 years, and the first year must be divided out in a month-to-month forecast. Woo! So you're going to have to understand your revenues. How are you going to make those monies? Right? We talked about that when we were doing the marketing plan. Ooh, yeah. So how are you going to market? How many leads are you going to get per month? How many of those leads are you going to close? Right? What are your cost of goods associated with that? What is your labor? What are your fixed expense, variable expense? If you're starting to hyperventilate, don't worry, don't worry, okay? Like there's time, right? That's why you're doing this work is so that you can understand what you're going to need to be successful and you can start to understand the profitability of that business and truly, why is this a good investment for you, your time and energy and personal resources, and for the investor? Right? And even outside of that investor, remember we talked about the three? For the employees, right? Are you going to be able to pay them? What are they getting out of this deal? Is this going to be a sustainable business for them? Are they going to be able to grow into the future with it? The answers are in your hands, right? It all coming from your financial forecast. All right. Just remember you got to do research on salaries, what we call SG&A, right? The salaries, general administrative expenses. You can also hear that called as overhead. Any kind of capital expenditures known as CapEx. Maybe you need some equipment, right? Maybe you need real estate, right? What are those expenditures that you need to make into the business? All right, are you going to have to borrow money? If you are, what kind of interest rate? What is it going to cost you? Because we need to start figuring out that in this conversation, right? All right, and then any significant number, large or small, right, of expenses. Right, understanding. Maybe even want to put contingent liabilities in there, right? Maybe you're just not certain. You just want to make sure you've got a little extra sitting in the coffers to protect against a rainy day. Just understand there is a list of what we call assumptions, both revenue and expense assumptions. Remember, those are guesses that should be developed to guide your forecast. It is the legend, right, on your forecasting map to tell us exactly what your guesses are about the future and why you feel certain that you're going to make that money. Those assumptions will change over time. Just understand and expect that, okay? And as a business owner that is actively leading the business, you're going to make the changes as you see them coming up because you're watching the landscape, right? You're making sure that you are gaining traction and you're leading your team in a good way. Ooh, that's a lot. All of this is so important, right? I can't say that any one section is better than the other. Hopefully, through this conversation, you can see how they blend together to make that strong, compelling case or argument, right? And a well-rounded understanding of the business. All right. So let's see here. I think there is a video. I don't know if it's going to play. Nope, it didn't play. I'm sorry, team. It's not playing. That's okay. we will continue on. All right, so I'm going to just give you a nice little summary. All right, so writing your business plan is the difference between having a well executed business, right? One that has a plan and mission. There's something guiding or leading or even bonding a team together. And it separates it from just having a good idea, right? Good idea, come and go, right? What's that old adage? We all have $1 million idea at least once in our lifetime, right? A business plan takes that idea into another level. It actually brings it into existence. In my career of over 25 years working with individuals on completing these projects, it is nothing more stunning to me than to see a well executed written plan literally turn into the dream that they had, right? Physical, I can walk in, I can talk to the employees and the people, I can receive the goods or services. It is the best experience. I liken it to being Ed McMahon. Again, rolling on the scene and being able to give away big checks and actually see the joy and excitement and the change within the communities, right? Your business plan is that difference. It is the change. It brings it into reality. And so a finished plan, remember, should only be the 12 to 16 pages, right? The purpose of the plan, you should know what your ask is, right? Maybe it's to obtain funding, maybe it's direction for the team, maybe it's to help explain what products and services you're offering to the end user, right? But whatever this plan is and your purpose, it should be so coherent that you should be able to lead from it, right? Leadership is where it comes in, and knowing what you're leading to and what needs to happen. And that needs to change just as the environment is changing. So making sure that you're doing that annual renewal or review is really important, right? And then understanding if there's any changes in your market, right? Or maybe new competition or, right, innovation or disruption starting to come out on the horizon. Hopefully you start to see that if you take this process seriously, right, in a thoughtful manner, it actually ensures the protection of your business going forward, helps you be successful, helps foster the right type of communication that you can actually lead from, and then reduces the business from going out of business or going into default or having issues. All right, it's a pretty serious aspect. We've just gone through some trying times over the last couple of years. And I will tell you that the business owners that started off with a plan were able to retool it and re-envision it, right? They did far better in an economic downturn, right? They were able to see the opportunities quicker, activate, lead for the opportunities than those that were scrambling without a plan. So, continued, right? Let's make sure that we are, in fact, being very efficient, effective, and compelling, right? EEC. Don't confuse the reader, right? Be plain language. Don't use buzzwords. You want to be able to clearly communicate. If you're using an acronym, right? TD, right? Or whatever that might be, please, 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 right? Spell it out for the person. All right, I can't tell you how many times I was lost in a business plan and I couldn't remember what the acronym meant, right? Or what the buzzword was. I was confused. It might mean something completely different to me. So plain language, all right? In the management section, convince the reader that the management team has that knowledge and experience to operate that business. And of course, generate the profit. Businesses are in there to be profitable. Your plan should be able to show how you're going to reach that goal, right? And why it's important to invest in you. All right, so this becomes your basis for your strategic plan. Remember, when you get through all these sections, what do? You go back to the executive summary, right? Because now you understand if we go back to the executive summary, we really have a well-rounded knowledge of how we're going to accomplish our goals. We understand all of the ins and outs, right? Our full power as a business owner. Okay. So, next steps. That's going to be my question. So, Brett and Paula and Lori, um, individuals that are listening to this, they're like, all right, I'm ready to start doing the research. I'm ready to start getting in the game, right? I know I got to put the work in. I need to probably connect with an advisor that's an expert in this field that can be my guide, right? What we call it, Sherpa. That person take me up the mountain, right? So we'll get you with next steps in a minute. Just a reminder, my name is Rebecca Schultz. I am the founder executive loan consultant for Centerlock, and I love money. I hope you love money too. Because with talking about business and small business economy, right, you are creating jobs, creating money and support for all our economy. And I know that myself and the SBDC team thanks you for joining the presentation today and being that brave soul to make a difference. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can hopefully take some questions.
You've stirred up a hornet's nest today, Rebecca. My
I
goodness.
did.
The chat is full and people are dying to talk to you. So let me just put a little order to the way we're going to do this. First of all, there's been a few questions in the chat and privately to me asking about the slides and everything afterwards. So what I'm going to do real quick in the chat box, if you will all notice, there's a link, and that's going to the NCTC SBDC YouTube channel, which you can get this and many other trainings and conferences that we've done throughout the past year and now. So you can feel free to go to it and go. I highly urge you to go and see all of Rebecca's because she's throughout there. But go to that link and that'll answer a lot of the questions that have been in the chat about, oh my gosh, can we get this? Why? Because it's such an important topic. And thank you so much for presenting it so well. But we still encourage you now to ask some questions. Let me take the ones in the chat first, and then I'm going to allow anybody who wants to unmic and actually ask you a question. There is, man, I got to go all the way back to here. Here we go. How would you customize a plan according to its use, like seeking lending versus attracting investors? I thought it was a great question.
Oh, okay. So great conversation. I'm going to give a live example from a talk that I had with a business owner on Monday. All right. So in this talk, the business owner had really two forms of capital they were seeking. All right. One, they were looking for an SBA loan because it was a startup pizzeria, right? So they're looking for an SBA loan. And two, they didn't have all of the down payment they needed, what we would call a capital injection, right, in order to meet the requirement. So they were also seeking outside private investment into the business. And so they were really, their goal was to attract money, but there were two different sources of money. And right away, when I was looking at the business plan, the hairs on the back of my neck started rising because I started to see how they were trying to blend together the conversation for both investors, and they were at odds. All right, so I know this, you may not know this, but I'll explain. Because the investor, that private money they're going to take, they're telling that private investor they're going to give them 20% of all profit straight off the top, right, to get their investment. Well, an SBA lender is going to look at that and say, now I'm behind the shareholders' investment, right? Take 20% of all net profit, and I'm behind that, and I don't feel so good about this conversation, right? I see their priority is to somebody else. And so, crafting the conversation based on the audience is really, really important because you may lose the audience or throw a big old monkey wrench in that and then ultimately not achieve anything, right? Not achieve any of the money that you're set up for. And so, navigating and making sure that you are utilizing resources that can give you an honest opinion. That's one of the things that the business owners do, or the SBDC advisors do all the time, is give an honest reflection of how they're reviewing that plan and then maybe some problems or issues coming up. So you craft the plan for what you're trying to attract, knowing that a well-crafted business plan is going to have the investors in mind, the type of investors you need with the right conversation, right? Understand how you're going to motivate, encourage, and lead your employees, right? Because the employees are often a huge part of it. And then, of course, what is it you're trying to do for the customer, the client? What is that goal, right? That should be in your mission statement. All of it should flow together. I hope I answered that question. If I didn't, just, speak up and
And then some. I think that was really well done. If somebody has a question now, please just go ahead and unmute yourself or put it in the chat. We'll be happy to take the questions, or you can just raise your hand like that and I'll see you, or you can raise it virtually like that and I'll see you. And I'll be happy to go ahead. But if somebody has a question, please go ahead and ask Rebecca right now.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for this. This was super informative. Do you have any recommendations, particularly for a brand new business that doesn't have any capital yet to start up?
that is a good conversation. I feel like I do have good information. One, get to know the people within your industry and ask them where they've gotten support. All right. So this is kind of like that grassroots learning who's got the goods, who's got the money, who's got the wealth. Because I'll tell you one thing about being strategic and asking for money. When you've got a certain type of industry, there's going to be what we call niche lenders involved. All right, it's everywhere you go. There's niche lenders. Not every single lender is going to be good at doing everything, just like every person's not going to be good at every communication style or every learning style, right? Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. And if you're in an industry where you've got that relationship, you can talk to somebody. Niche lenders are going to be better at startup ventures than those that are generalist because they know the industry, they feel comfortable. There's a certain level of guidance and trust, right? And because they're typically experts, they can benefit you, right? As well as be a little easier to give money or give loans in that area. So ask others in your industry where they've got relationships formed and see if you can start getting introduced. So use those networks. The second advice would be there's a whole group of lenders that are called community development financial institutions. So the acronym is CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions. All right, in our market, there are two really strong and well-known CDFIs. That's going to be Lift Fund, Lift like they're lifting you up, Lift, FUND, one word, Lift Fund. So you can go to liftfund.com and you can learn about them. And there's also People Fund. Same thing, People Fund. Those are micro lender to small businesses. Micro lenders, think about it this way, they take on more risk than your traditional lenders. And so they're more eager to do startup deals than your traditional community lenders, right? Community lenders, they usually want you to have 2 to 3 years of history, have that experience behind you. And then at that point, you represent less risk. Then they're willing to go ahead and use, grandma's pension check to support you, right? Not before, because they don't want to be on the hook for, taking on too much risk. Or the CDFIs are actually given money and support through the government to help startups as well as through some of these larger banks that have a Community Reinvestment Act requirement, meaning that they have to go out and do these smaller loans. They just don't like to do the smaller loans. It costs them too much money. It's, too time consuming. So they essentially give money to the CDFIs for them to do it. And that essentially solves that CRA credit situation. So I would say check in with CDFIs, but more importantly, go talk to others that are in your industry that have gotten support and see if you can find a really good niche lender because again the value of having that level of insight as you're getting started is really worth its price in gold, really. It's really good.
And
Great.
so is that advice.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, Just real quick curiosity, someone's asking, what happens if a business fails after receiving like an SBA loan? Yeah,
Oh my goodness, I have such good stories, right? I could tell you some tales, but I
that.
won't. I'll leave it in more of a general conversation. So, it's really all up to you. It is a relationship. And so you have a lot to say about what happens if a business doesn't succeed, right? Obviously, there's contracts involved. And in most cases, there's a personal guarantee, especially for what we call an SBA loan. That means that the business owners or shareholders with 20% or greater interest in the business would have to pony up to the table, right, and pay the bill should the business not be able to perform. Right, but it's not like the government is horrible and they're going to take you out and they're going to take your home and they're going to take all it's not that situation. It's very much about communicating your needs, maybe blocks or issues. There is some support that SBA lenders have that they can provide you. Maybe that's a deferment, maybe it's an interest only payment. Maybe if they feel like, you're going to be profitable soon, there's not a huge amount of risk, they'll give you more money, right? You just always have to stay in communication with the lender and be honest about what's happening in the business and how you're leading it. But, worst case scenario, they would come back and they would ask you to repay back any amount that was left over after assets had been liquidated. All right, so that's the order of priority. SBA takes liens or collateral. They will go and collect that collateral, sell it, offset the outstanding balance. The difference in that balance becomes the business owner's responsibility. You can make payment arrangements, right? If you didn't make payment arrangements, like what's the worst thing that could happen to you? Well, in the state of Texas, they could make sure that you don't get your refunds back on your IRS, right? That's kind of how it goes, right? You just be making those payments to the government until the loan is paid off. It's not horrible, horrible,
So
but
basically, you're still responsible for paying it back,
correct,
and even if your business fails. And
correct,
but they will work with you on how you can get that done.
correct. I did see one situation where it was a retired vet who was in a horrible accident, near fatal, and he just had to close his business because he physically couldn't do it. He was just disabled at that point, and they didn't go after him, right? He served his country. He did his
Deserve.
best to try to collect, and he didn't suffer any ramifications. His family was okay, but SBA is a pretty fair lending partner.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions they'd like to bring up? I have one last one in the chat, taking us back to the marketing plan portion of the business plan. And it says, how do you narrow down a target market when it's possible that your product or service is going out to a large community? So how do you narrow that down to, I think I'm reading that correctly. How do you narrow down a target market when it's possible to service a large community or communities?
Mm. I like that. I'm gonna equate that to eating an elephant, right? So how do you do that? The elephant is so big, right? So how do you start putting your head around that meal? And I would say, this is where you can use the milestones that we talked about to really understand your target market, understand your product better, and start developing a engine to start expanding, right? So in that manner, I would start bite size. Maybe you want to start with a few zip codes. Like you could service, a large amount, right? But just start getting really good and start just making a dent in one section or one area, right? And maybe you'll call that milestone, whatever makes sense, right? If I'm using zip codes, zip code 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, and once I get 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got a certain amount of concentration, and I've got the ability to take on more. You never want to, take on too much opportunity without the resources to fully comb it. You kind of hurt yourself that way, right? And then you're ready for more. Then you start targeting a slightly bigger, right? You take that second bite. And so essentially, you're just going to start defining in smaller sections what your goals are, and then be able to define at the same time when you've reached that goal, right? When you've gotten to that saturation, or when you're ready for more. Maybe that could be your pipeline, right? Like, okay, I can close 20 leads this month. I'm only closing 10. Now because I've got the capacity to close 10 more, I'm ready to go ahead and start expanding and take that second bite. But whatever your internal metrics is, whatever you decide, it should make sense to you. And as a leader, you should be able to lead others around you and educate your sales team, educate, your customers and clients what the expectations are. You just have to be really good at communication and helping them understand when you've gotten to that next milestone and what the goals are.
Thank you. That is really good advice on something that big, and I love that. Eating an elephant, plan the meal one bite at a time, right? It's just sort of if not, you won't get there because that's impressive. So, any other questions right now? Anybody have anything about business plans in particular, especially today that we're talking about with Rebecca? Well, Rebecca, I'm going to say thank you so much. You really did. We had a lot. I hope I got all the questions in the chat. If I didn't, we will be getting back to you after I review it after the thought. And if not, you can always go back and rewatch this. Please send it to your friends and other entrepreneurs that you know because they need this. Everybody who's trying to put together a good business plan, I don't know about you, but I feel even more comfortable now doing a business plan and knowing what the depth of it is. There was a few things that you brought up today, Rebecca, that I hadn't thought of. For example, the management plan to me was put down all of the managers and what their roles and titles will be. Well, I was a little light, now wasn't I? So it was a really, really good information knowing that no, actually these are the four founders of your company and the background and the backbone of it. So thank you for going over that in detail and acknowledging how important that is. We do have a lot of upcoming events, and I want to get to those right now, if I may. Um, First of all, Rebecca, do you have any closing comments you'd like to give everybody about their business plan before I go into this?
Have fun. Make it personal, right? This is your journey. And you guys are all brave, taking on, big problems oftentimes, making, changes that we all need and find value in the community. So give it some time, give it some thought, and just make it fun.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And wow, we have so much more training coming up. March 3rd, which is like a whole day away, accounting life cycle in QuickBooks with Stacy Kendall. She'll also be here on the 8th with QuickBooks SOS, avoiding common mistakes. For those of you that use QuickBooks, I highly recommend this. It's going to help us all. March 8th, financial bookkeeping for businesses, for business funding needs. Guess who's going to do that one? That's right. She's right there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Rebecca Schultz. We're going to be happy to see that one. So that's financial bookkeeping for business funding needs. And that's very important. And we know that you don't want to miss that. So tell your friends the 8th not to miss that. On the 9th, we have Hiring Smart with CJ Pettit and bank rules in QuickBooks with Stacy Kendall coming up. And of course, we have on the 22nd, again, Miss Rebecca Schultz, we're happy to have, with taking the cryptic out of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency's really a thing, huh? I can't wait to talk
Yeah, it
about that one.
is.
That should be
It
very
is.
interesting.
It's a thing. It's a
So,
thing, and it could be an advantage for some businesses. So
right,
it's ever evolving. I'm trying to keep up on the conversation myself because I feel like it's changing, but it's
right.
cool.
Well, see there, so we have lots and lots of good information. And right after this, you're going to be getting a survey. Please take 2 minutes of your valuable time to fill that out and let us know about the quality of training that we're being able to give you and give us a little feedback and something that you might need for your business that we haven't thought of yet to put on our training site. Again, you can go backwards in time to see that in the chat with a link to see anything in the past that we've done, or you can go to the QR code located right about here in your screen with the upcoming webinars, and that will lead you to the future webinars that are coming in. And if that's not enough for you, the SBDC website at sbdc.nctc.edu has many, many other things for business owners and entrepreneurs as well, including your ability to schedule time with a business advisor for some confidential business advising. So if that sounds like something you want to do, make sure you take that link at the bottom and please register. We'd be happy to help you with your business, and we look forward to getting to know you in a personal way. We are sponsored, and I want to thank a few people. First of all, we want to thank the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College for making all of this and more possible for you. And we want to thank every single one of you for joining us today. We had quite the turnout. If we didn't get your questions, please go ahead and put them in there. We will try desperately to get back to you with the answers from Rebecca. And you have an amazing rest of your week, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.